Okay, and we're back. At least
Hey,
I am. I hope the internet is still working.
hey, Justin, I am back.
Okay, awesome. Now, what I find really entertaining, or not entertaining, but interesting, we are using probably my most used media right now, which is Skype.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that Skype is great. I think that it's the original voice over internet protocol device. Do you know if that's
Yep.
the case?
Yep. There may have been others before, but I know it is like the surviving major one from that first time period. You know, when the dot coms were all starting, Skype was one of the originals, and it offered. I think before you could call phones, you could just call someone like we are right now, and it didn't use minutes. But now, I, for example, use it to call landlines and cell phones and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I use it for that as well overseas. I have some relatives, I have some friends over there, and yeah, it's very useful. And I think that Skype is a brilliant example of social media that is a tool that doesn't prescribe in any onerous way, a social behavior. I think that sort of like if you look at Facebook, for example, or if you look at any of the dating apps, then there's kind of like an expectation of like how you'll behave on there. What is the general protocol? With Skype, it really is just like a phone, or like an email, or it's replicating things that are already there in our lives. It's just making them essentially cheaper or free. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's a great example of a social app that changes the way that we interact. I think that it simply is providing a way for us to interact in a way that we might otherwise, not be able to at a greater expense.
See, now I'm going to throw a little monkey wrench. I agree with you on everything but one. I do believe it has changed one aspect, long distance relationships. And that can be both familial or relational, romantically. I remember a roommate of mine who used to have to use a calling card to call her boyfriend every day. It was rather expensive, but she did it. And the only other method she had to communicate with him was email. And to see him, she would get a picture mailed to her because in these days, internet tech wasn't good enough to even see images. So she would get like an image mailed to her
Right,
twice a year. He was living in Ethiopia and she was here in Windsor, Ontario.
right.
So
And yet Skype isn't sort of obsolete, because we have all those things that we can do now, like email pictures and that sort of thing. But it is um, yeah, I agree with you. I guess it has made long distance relationships a lot easier.
however, I do think, and I'm going to throw this out there because this is a little bit of a commentary on long distance relationships. I feel that now, more than, say, 50 years ago, 60 years ago in the 50s, now more than then, people are less tolerant of distance relationships than they used to be.
Yeah, I've been fighting back the urge to saying long distance is the wrong distance. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, I did not
Ooh, that's
feel that.
catchy.
I did
What
not
if
feel
long distance is the song distance?
that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make grammatical sense.
No, it doesn't. It just rhymed. Okay, it just
So
rhymed.
you could put other words in there like tong,
Is the bong distance or
thong,
pong? Yeah, I know.
bong.
Oh, but um, now in the 50s, people
See,
had no problem, and
back on the track. Back on the track.
yeah, going back now, people had. I feel like they had less of an issue with long distance relationships. They had somewhat of a stomach for it. They could be like, well, I don't see them for 2 years, but I can still be exclusive to them. I can ignore everything else and can just focus on maybe my work or whatever it is I'm doing. And I'll see them when they come back. I trust that they'll come back. Where now we end up having this sense of distrust. We want to know every intimate detail of what they're doing with their day, and people, they want to talk to them all the time, and when they are not able to see them, they get nervous. And I just wonder if, because we have such an ease of access to people, we now almost have raised the standard by which we require a relationship, or lowered, depending on your perspective.
I think that the standard has changed because of other, influences, other social influences. I think that the sexual liberation movement, the women liberation movement, since the 50s at least, has meant that people are less likely to tolerate others being dishonest to them in a relationship, or stepping outside of the relationship to seek companionship and that sort of thing. I think that we have a much more open dialogue. I don't know how much that has to do with communication.
I think that makes a really great point, because people feel more free to express themselves. They also therefore are willing to wait. I guess the romantic in me kind of wonders, wouldn't it be nice if people, when they met the right person, would say, yeah, I'm going to tough this out. What I'm finding now, when I meet people who dealt with long distance and made it work, successful long distance relationships worked, when one or both people basically agreed to move. After a short period of time, somebody was displacing themselves and just moved.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to go about it. I think that a long, torturous, long distance relationship is really not worthwhile unless they're basically a pen pal. Like, unless they're basically just, you have this friend that's overseas that has really pretty curly hair and has a podcast or whatever, and things just won't work out. So you're happy to just be friends with them, and
That's true.
Share a conversation with them every once in a while.
And I would say that Skype and all of those other things, I have friends who've come to say hello. I would say that Skype has definitely facilitated the increase of friendships and business work.
Yeah.
Having those things kind of interact and integrate, I think, is apps like Skype. But I almost feel now that there's a point where there's so many apps. I mean, give me a second here. I'm gonna just pull up my phone and I'm gonna count just how many different social media apps I have. Just
while you're looking that up, I've got some live feedback on our show so far. Apparently, the listeners would like for us to mention the word "small penis" more often. That's what I'm hearing from the wide world web wiki woo place.
Wow. Well, I think people who what's interesting, you mentioned the idea of fetishes. There are so many different ways people can interact. So we'll talk. I think we can integrate the fans' wants, right?
Yeah, sure,
let's look at Twitter.
Yeah, let's look at Twitter.
We haven't really mentioned Twitter. Now, Twitter is a social media that I just don't understand. I'm using it because people use it, and because this is an online show and I want people to pay attention to it. I'm using it. Okay, yeah. I actually feel like I have to use it to keep up. However, I don't understand the nature or the want to just post anything you feel like saying or thinking. And that's it. That's the level of interaction that it is. I've seen someone's Twitter say, I'm taking a poop right now.
Right.
Or I have a really small penis. Somebody could say that on Twitter, and that's it. That's all you've heard from them their whole life. You've got small penis 11 is his profile name, and he says, I have a small penis. And he posts that to the world. I don't understand what need of a person that's satisfying exactly.
I believe he can also post an image of his small penis.
I don't know. I think that might be a violation of the terms of rights.
Really?
It's offensive.
Really?
It might be.
You can't even privately just post that out to your
immediate group?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm scared to look up hashtag small penis to see what comes up.
I feel like it wouldn't be lots of images. I feel like it would be a lot of, I guess my idealistic view of Twitter would be that it would be a bunch of creative people. People that, have television shows or podcasts or, comedians,
Artists,
but the
yeah.
artists, whatever, and they would be sharing. They would be sharing what they're producing, or whatever it might be, their thoughts and feelings, and people would be interacting with that. I think that's the ideal.
I think what I'm wondering though is like the only thing that I see differentiates Twitter from Facebook, because Facebook has a status thing.
Yeah.
It has an area where you can put your status. And if you think way back to MSN Messenger, don't know if you use that, it had a status that you could have at the top, where now it's more like a post that goes up, right? It's
Right.
Something that pops up. But Facebook and Twitter are very similar in this regard, only Twitter has the idea of tagging, where Facebook doesn't.
Right.
So on Twitter, I could look up by tags, I could look up things that interest me.
Right. I think that it's a way to distribute news. I think there are lots of facets to it. I don't understand it as like a human to human interaction tool. I feel like in a world of binary opposites of like macro and micro, this Twitter should be ideally used as a macro tool.
I think I can see that. I can see its use in the macro sense. You're making a really good argument for that.
Yeah. I think as a micro tool, it's fucking stupid. Like it is just a small dick among a room of light swinging baby arms. I don't think that it's a very good use of your time if you're just looking for a way to communicate with people one-on-one.
But what I'm wondering is, so many people spend a lot of their time tweeting the most ridiculous things. There's a South Park episode about this where they create a new thing. I'm refraining from using swear words only because I want to make it as kid-friendly as possible. But there is a South Park episode where people can basically just transmit their thoughts to the internet. They come up with this idea for the show. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because we're really only one step away from that, I feel, where we can just, without a filter, there is just no filter. I can just say whatever I want. So on the one hand, it's great because there's no censorship. On the other hand, on the other hand, you wonder, should there be some
what's the point
of censorship?
Before we get to the censorship question, what's the point? I just don't understand the point.
I feel like people are so desperate for a connection that they want someone to understand them or share their lives or whatever, that on that micro scale, which is what I'm focusing on. I think you've made a really good case for the macro, but I think the micro is a reflection of how we are so intrinsically in need for a community that we'll just put out everything we can, hoping someone will just say, yeah, I love what you said there. I remember one of my really close friends put a post on Facebook, and he went through this phase for about a month and a half where he was putting up posts hoping to get the most number of likes possible.
Right.
So he started to just post things that he thought lots of people would like, because he just wanted people to like him. And I wonder, that's probably not the way to get, what's the word for that? There's a psychological term for how you feel about yourself, your self-esteem, I guess.
Yeah. Self-worth.
And I feel like micro searching for self-esteem through tweets is probably not the healthiest way to do that.
No, and I think that you don't really want to search for self-esteem by by validation from others. You probably should seek it from validation through yourself. If you're putting out there, does anyone my mind is going to the small penis example again, and I just can't get small penises out of my brain.
You're just not going to take them out. You're going to leave them in there.
I'm just going to leave them in there. If you're putting your small penis out there, and you're seeking that validation, it probably says that you don't like your small penis yourself. So like your own small penis before you set it out there for comment, I guess. And I think that...
Do you think this would actually make it on the radio? Aside from the F-bomb that we dropped earlier.
I think that it would,
I think so. Personally, I don't think it's
Sirius radio, the internet radio, the private radio, doesn't that have swearing in it?
I think it does. I just think that Anyway, we don't need to go into that. I agree. I think it is a bit of a reflection of, when you're tweeting something. For example, I micro tweet inspirational phrases. When people see stuff that comes from me, I want them to see things that inspire them.
Right, but you're one of those happy, lovely people that wants to put good out into the world, and that's not really easy to like empathize with for a lot of people. A lot of people just want to pour their poison and bile out there, and that's healthy.
So it becomes a conduit then for whatever energy you want, be it positive or negative.
Yeah. Some people want to vent. No, I get that.
Here's my question now. I'm going to move it to, because you said you don't use a lot of these media. Where do you vent? What is your vent?
Okay, so I spoke to you sort of briefly about this previously, but there's a website online. I don't know the name exactly of it, but it's basically where people make secret confessions about things. I cheated on my wife.
Secretconfessions.com?
Sure, that sounds like it might be it. I cheated on my wife and she has cancer and I can't confront the fact that I still have, desire to have sex, but I love her so much and I can't leave her or whatever. Like just really, really dense, sometimes really sad, often very sad, things that, people just want to put out there anonymously. And feel like they've disclosed, like they've said something, and
you know what?
I've heard them.
I'm going to read one. to demonstrate the point.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, because I was listening to you, but I'm going to read one. This is by Jacob in Alone Guilt. I've been in an on and off relationship for 2 years now. In the beginning, I truly loved her. I still do, but now, after she broke my heart several times, I find my tolerance for her fading. I can't live with her anxiety, but I couldn't bear to live without her. And now that I've met the girl of my dreams, whom I can't stay away from, I feel as though I should just die. She's gorgeous, British, a dancer, a singer, and an actor. And I made her really upset by accident. I really like her, but because of this, I feel that I am in a really shite place right now. I just hope this gets resolved. I'm wondering if he's talking about two different women.
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, so he's in a on and off relationship, but he's in love with another woman.
Yep.
And there's a comment. Someone commented on this.
Yep. What did they say?
Dear Jake, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. Do you want me to do a guy or a girl voice? I can do either. It's Joe. Joe responded. I better do a man voice.
No, please do a girl voice. I think I'd prefer to hear a girl voice.
Dear Jacob. I don't know if I can keep going like that.
No, you have to. You have to, or I'll hit you.
All right, I'll do my best. It sounds as if you feel responsible for keeping your entire relationship. Apparently, I'm British.
Are you British?
Okay. It's really. I'm having a hard time paying attention, so I'm gonna just read it in my normal voice.
Okay.
It sounds as if you feel responsible for keeping your entire relationship going and are uneasy about doing anything to upset your sweetheart. In a healthy relationship, both parties take responsibility for their actions and do not blame the other for everything wrong that happens. Being repeatedly hurt by your sweetheart is also hurting you a great deal. Maybe you will have to take some time away from this relationship to heal and to learn how to appreciate yourself and stop feeling responsible for keeping someone happy who toys with your heart. Therapy would likely help you also. Take care and let us know how you're doing. Be well. Wow.
Great. Fantastic response. I think that she did a really great job there.
Joe was spelled Joe, but Joe could be a woman. We really don't know.
It's a woman. It's definitely, it sounds like the considerate, compassionate, feminine voice that we've all wanted.
Wow.
You're all shocked.
It really did. Especially when she sounded a lot like this.
Yeah, I call her Scary Poppins. That's what that voice is. That's what that character is. Scary Poppins. Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting outlet. I mean, that was my first time checking out the website just right now.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I don't think I've ever seen such an intimate exchange between two people. Someone seeking advice about something really personal and doing it free of judgment, and someone providing that advice free of any criticism.
Yeah. And I think that I enjoyed reading that. Like, that's when I'm in a really dark, unhappy place. I tend to go to websites not unlike that one. There's a couple.
Have you ever posted?
There's a couple. No, I've never posted. I've only ever read, and it makes me feel connected to people that are in the same sort of emotional space as I am, but for different reasons. And I feel like I don't need someone to tell me that whatever I'm thinking about or feeling is right or wrong. I just want to connect with people in this very disconnected way that are feeling the same way that I am, and feel validated that, there are other people out there that are feeling sad, that are feeling unhappy, and I can share in that shared feeling of frustration and sadness for that moment, and then I can let it go and move on.
Do you feel the anonymity plays a major role in that?
Yeah, I don't want to know them as a person, and I think that I feel like if I knew them more, then I would I wouldn't be able to engage with it on the same level that I am engaging with it. It's kind of like, there's these two people that are cheating on their partners. And their disclosures are very similar, and one of them you saw as like somebody this very free spirit, and neglects to mention in their disclosure that they always were very open with their partner, that they didn't want to be tied down, and they just feel trapped, and then the other person is like a very conservative, possibly religious person that sees the sanctity of a monogamous relationship as very high in the agenda, and both of them have made a very similar disclosure. I think that if I knew those things about them, I might preference one over the other, for example, but I don't want to do that. I just want to read their disclosure. I want to sense what they're feeling, that feeling of perhaps desperation or frustration or sadness, and I want to engage with that emotion on purely that emotional level.
It is interesting. I mean, to me, it reminds me of the age-old chat rooms.
Yeah,
a lot. It reminds me a lot of chat rooms. Only it's not really live, but it does have this element of anonymity. You're not able to see the person. You're just getting these sort of deep confessions, if you will.
And I don't like the nature of a dialogue, because I feel like the dialogue detracts from the very personal, very raw nature of it. I feel like if it's a dialogue, it makes it a little bit personal. It's directed at you. It's somebody communicating with you. Whereas,
as opposed to it being open to everyone.
Yeah, it's open to everybody. It's not meant for anybody in particular. It's just somebody saying something that they would find very difficult to say to another person normally, and just letting it out there. It's kind of like like writing a wish on a piece of paper and then burning it and sending it out into the universe. Like, I know that people.
Yeah. Only you get a response.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't. If I were to disclose something, I wouldn't necessarily go and read what the responses were.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I think I would, out of curiosity. I think I would. Yeah. I do have a small confession. Someone came in very briefly a moment ago just to say goodbye. And so if you ever do watch the video yourself, Tolly, you will see me high five someone. It does not detract from the fact that I wasn't listening to you. Just as... Okay, just in case. The podcast, they wouldn't even know because I muted my microphone and everything. But
you felt the need to confess. That's good.
I had my own personal confession that I just had to just let out.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
Yeah. I wonder if I would have confessed if I would have had the foresight to change the screen so that even the viewers wouldn't know.
Well,
I didn't.
would you have felt the need to confess if you weren't streaming it at all?
Well, I think not. I think in a normal conversational context, if we were video Skyping, it would have been obvious and I would have excused myself. It was only about 2 or 3 seconds long, the see you later. It was the guy who helps me run the show who was saying goodbye. He'd stopped by briefly. But anyway, yeah, I think that's an interesting point. If you're not being watched, how accountable and honest are you?
Yeah, which brings us to, and I know that we're running short of time, but brings us to a topic that I'm very interested in, and I know that you're very interested in, and it's a website called Ashley Madison.
I knew I really wanted to bring this up. We got into a very heated discussion when we were talking about this.
Super heated.
So let's pick up anywhere. Present to me your thoughts on Ashley Madison. Maybe describe what it is for our viewers, for those who do not know.
Okay, so Ashley Madison is a website that is a dating website, and it basically is there for people that are in relationships, but would like to step outside of those relationships and have an illicit affair, and keep that secret from their partner. Is that basically the sum of it?
I think that is the sum of it. Yeah, it really makes my skin crawl.
It doesn't make my skin crawl. It doesn't make my skin crawl at all.
I guess for me, I really focus a lot on the idea of making money as a company to make the world a better place. I think if your emphasis is making the world a better place, that's a great thing. And for me, I really struggle in seeing how facilitating the cheating. I mean, it's one thing if it's like I would say it's a little different when it's, for example, a brothel, let's say, where someone pays for sex. I mean, we could talk about what that is on a whole other topic, but the idea that someone does that, but you don't really know anything about them. You don't know what their status is. This is like you specifically want to have an affair. You are in a relationship and you want to have an affair. It's very clearly identifying that I am promoting, well, not me personally, but the site promotes the idea of illicit affairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really struggle to see the good in that form.
I enjoy your struggle with this. It really is. I think it articulates the difference between us very, very strongly. I feel like you're very individual focused. You love the human being. You want people on an individual level to do well and be well and have safe, functional, happy relationships with other people. Is that about right, Justin?
I'd say you're summarizing my view quite well. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm from a very different ilk. I think that your sort of view of the world and your wishes for individuals are great, and I think very virtuous, very lovely. But I think that they're a little bit too idealistic, and I think that that the way that people behave and the way that people form relationships and have relationships are often formed based on what they're socially predisposed and socially taught to do. So,
I think we touched on that. I remember you saying that sorry to interrupt you a bit there. I remember you saying that you feel that there is a need for illicit affairs because people sometimes want to cheat or they want to have relationships, but society has told them that it's not acceptable.
That's right.
People want, basically you're saying people want to be polyamorous, but society tells them it's not okay.
Yep. Yep. That's my, I think that it's also...
I actually agree with you about that, though. I agree that if two people are open about their polyamorousness, it's fine. What bothers me
is that when one is open and one isn't.
Yes, it is. It is the fact that there is an element of secrecy, almost like shame. And I think that although it may not be popular where you are, if you're in a country, for example, where that is unacceptable, or you're in a culture where that is unacceptable, then you are in a difficult position to have your polyamorous desires. But it's not just about hiding it from the culture; it's also about hiding it from your partner.
Right, but I think that your partner is still part
A
of a
byproduct of
culture.
the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. I just think at that point, if I was in those shoes and I wanted a polyamorous relationship, and I knew my partner wasn't interested, I would just let that partner go. No matter how great they are, they're not going to be able to meet that need I would have of polyamory.
Right, and my argument would be that that you may end up having a lot of partners that would have that same view, that are also the products of this, very strong overarching cultural norm, and that this might place you in a place of significant desperation and significant unhappiness, and in that sense, I don't see Ashley Madison as a very negative thing. I see it as a product of this sort of silent desperate need to step out of relationships that people don't want to necessarily be in, but feel
Well,
constrained by.
are you familiar with the concept of swinging?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. It's sort of like a '60s sort of starting thing where people would go to party, keys in a bowl, and then swap partners.
Essentially, I mean, I heard of a swingers convention once in North America. A friend of mine is a part of an Optimist club, and they were at a hotel where a swingers convention was also taking place. So there were like naked people running around everywhere, just like swapping partners and all that kind of thing. I do feel that. We lost the call there. Let's see what happens. Okay, we're gonna try to get that back. Just 1 second. Try calling back. We do have a backup. I feel like that was a rather abrupt exit. Yeah, it says call dropped. So we'll see what happens here. I do have. Oh, there we are. Hello, are we back?
Hello, and we're back. Yep.
And we're back. Wonderful. I kept the audience entertained by singing them. I didn't sing, but I was talking. I was going to turn to singing next and then dancing if I needed to. I was discussing that there are swingers conventions and there are open relationships, but I'm thinking about that confession we read earlier in the show. You know, the guy who said he was with this girl on and off, and although he was in love with her at first, he isn't now, and he has this new girl of his dreams that he really likes. And the gentleman who replied, I thought very aptly, said, maybe you need therapy for your current relationship. You need some healing, and maybe you should let that one go to make room for the next one. But he wanted to have both. He wanted to have this old fling that maybe could have been not fling, but this old relationship that could have been something. And yet he found himself having feelings for someone new, likely because he was missing something.
Yeah.
My argument is, why doesn't he just go for it? You don't need to cheat. I think he was starting to feel guilty that he had these feelings for someone else. It's natural to have attraction. And if he wants to act on that attraction, he should either be open about it or let it go and move on.
I think that's not incorrect. But I don't think that it's capturing completely the breadth of, what makes people want to cheat on other people.
What do you think it is?
Well, I think that...
do you think it's the illicitness of it, like kind of like getting caught by your parents when you're a teenager would be, that is an element of it?
I think that could definitely be part of it, and but I think that that's a little bit niche. I think that the bulk of it, though, is sort of a desire to engage with people. I mean, you don't just have one friend. You don't have one best friend necessarily. You have a lot of people that you might be very, very close to, or there's very few situations in life where you just pick one of something, where you have to have only one of something, and
Like one flavor of ice cream.
yeah, for example, and it seems strange to me that uh, that it's such a great crime to be with lots of people. I think that the real crime is the dishonesty, and that's what really
Well,
gets to you.
that's my point, though. What if there was a site
That's
or
what gets to
social
you.
media that promoted an honest but polyamorous sense of things?
I think that that would be great, and I think that that it's not Ashley Madison's fault
That
that
people are dishonest.
well that people are distanced from the idea of wanting more than one flavor of ice cream.
I do feel, though, for the most part, when someone is seeking like a deeply intimate, in my life, I met one individual who I think very eloquently explained a polyamorous relationship. He described it as one that does not involve possession or jealousy. It involves complete open and honesty, so they are aware of how many partners, the history of your partners for sexual safety, those kind of things. He had some sort of ground rules to how it worked, and if one person was unable to handle these terms, then the relationship was terminated, no matter what.
Well,
And he was able to hold polyamorous relationships. Now, I think that's extremely progressive and very rare. I think most people, even when someone agrees to it, I remember watching an episode of House where a couple a married couple had an open relationship, and the character of House said one person is not okay with it more than the other, was his argument. And by the end of the episode, it turned out that was true. The husband was not okay with it where the wife was.
right.
And
I think it's very hard to find equal footing in a relationship generally. I mean, there's always going to be one person that loves the other person more. I think there's always going to be one person that, does more of the cleaning. I think there's always going to be
Yeah.
one person that earns more of the money. There's never going to be true symmetry.
So you're suggesting that Ashley Madison is satisfying. I mean, it exists because it obviously meets some sort of need, and that right now there is a need for people to connect in a dishonest way.
Yep. Because I feel like
And you're saying that Ashley Madison is doing a service because it is providing people with the avenue to conduct that.
yeah, I think it's important for Ashley Madison to exist because it exemplifies that struggle, that need, that frustration of mass social indoctrination that we should be jealous and we should be possessive of having this one partner, and that we're defined by the relationship that we have, and that we place value on people that are able to be in a relationship, and we place less value on people that are not in a relationship, and that we judge and question somebody for getting to a certain age and them not being married, or them not being in a long-term relationship, or them not having children. And I feel like Ashley Madison is an exemplification of freedom. Freedom to be and do.
I see.
Be and do, even if it's frowned upon.
I agree that it provides an outlet. I don't know that it exemplifies freedom. I think a regular, just plain old dating site accomplishes the same goal.
Not freedom,
Because people in that context. Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, not freedom in general, not freedom en masse, just freedom to do something that society doesn't necessarily view as crash hot.
Right. I mean, I see what you're saying because it kind of promotes, cheating, which isn't a crime, but is more of a social crime, if you will.
Right.
I guess to me, I feel that a regular old website does the same thing. Ashley Madison is just honest about exactly, although it's promoting dishonesty, it's honest about what it promotes, which is a dishonest relationship. Where other websites dating sites, people will have illicit affairs,
Right.
secret affairs.
They just weren't having a partner.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. So many times I hear of a couple women and men telling me of their relationship situations where they were dating someone who was double or even triple, having 3 relationships going. I find it miraculous that someone could juggle that so well, and how someone could also be fooled. I mean, I think that's always what people go through. How does someone do it in secret? And how does someone fall victim to it? I think that's a topic we could probably have for another day. Actually,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it comes down to a lot to saying what you want to say.
Yeah,
But sort of just taking that and running with it a little bit. I think that isn't it better to go on something like Ashley Madison and being honest about the fact that you aren't getting whatever you need from the relationship that you're in, but you want to remain in it, and you don't want to talk to your partner about not getting whatever you're getting, whatever you need to get, and seeking that out, and not placing people in a situation where they don't know what they're getting themselves into.
I don't agree, because I know that cheating occurs, but I personally just don't agree with the dishonesty that takes place in a cheating form. And I extend this not just to physical cheating, but emotional cheating. I was discussing this with someone just last night, the idea of emotional cheating, where you are seeking your emotional needs from someone else, not as a friend, but really like relationship type emotional stuff. I think the dishonesty is the real issue. It being dishonest to your partner. The whole idea of being with your partner is that you trust each other, and the very act of cheating breaks that trust. You aren't in a relationship when you commit the act of dishonesty.
I guess
You
I don't
are
disagree
in a
with
false sense of one.
I don't disagree with you. I don't think that cheating is a good thing. I don't think that dishonesty is a good. What I think is a good thing is that cheating and dishonesty, I feel, come from a culture of fear and desperation that somebody doesn't have a different option.
I see. So you're saying what we need is a culture or society that can provide people with other options.
Yeah.
So they don't feel the need to have these negative outbursts. It's almost like if we could curb anger, we could curb violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Essentially, like if we could find a way to, and so if we could if we could provide an outlet for people in a social way to have these open relationships or express themselves, then we wouldn't have the dishonesty.
I mean, the first step is, like you look at marriage as an institution. A woman gets a very expensive ring that is, a couple of months' salary of the man, and that's a insurance policy on him leaving her and her needing to survive for a little while until she can find another man to look after her.
That's a very dated idea. I agree on that, but we probably could get into marriage another day. Where are you going with this?
Where I'm going with this is that there are social norms that we look at as outdated now, and that we've moved on from, and we say, "Oh, that's so parochial. Why would anybody do it this way again? We've had these liberation movements. We should be more enlightened now." And I'm saying that in our current place now, in a way that we don't understand necessarily or haven't fully come to realize, we're still being constrained by certain norms that in 50 years or whatever will be also considered to be super duper outdated and very parochial. And it's difficult for us to anticipate what those norms will be necessarily. And we don't know whether we will go back and become more conservative or whether we'll jump forward as much as we have in the last 50 years and become even more liberal. But Ashley Madison identifies this this problem that I have with marriage, with binary relationships in general, that sort of say that you are um, validated as a person by your ability to have a long-lasting relationship with one person, and that is your goal in life, that you are to reproduce or to build a life together, and that is going to define you. That in order to run as a president in the US, for
Yep.
example, you need to have a wife or you need to have a husband. You need to be married.
Yep.
An unmarried person that has never done it. I mean, all of these things just suggest to me that that there's certain expectations from you socially, and that you need to subscribe to them. Otherwise, you're going to be ostracized in some way.
So I guess what we can agree on to try. I realize we've reached a sort of time, our goal of time here. I
Yeah.
think what we can both agree on is that Ashley Madison and Tinder and some of these other apps reveal certain aspects of the human persona and also the cultural landscape. I think that's a good word for it. The cultural landscape that we live in, that these apps answer different needs. Like we talked about Tinder being a fear of rejection. We talk about Ashley Madison providing that fear of communicating and that we want, maybe someone wants to have a polyamorous relationship but is unable to. Or Twitter, where someone was trying to share aspects of who they are in this very open way, trying to form connections. It seems like these social media apps reveal different aspects of that cultural landscape of that now, and also the needs of the human person. And we're attempting to use technology to answer those needs. And does that seem to summarize sort of what we've identified from today's conversation?
Yeah, I think that that's a reasonably good summary. I think what's important from my end to really nail down, though, is that I feel like there's a way that we would like to be this sort of like intrinsic, rudimentary sort of state of nature where we innately feel this is who we are and this is what we would like to be. And then the interference with that socially as a pressure on us makes us conform in certain ways. And that this, the anonymity and the ease of connection of these social media outlets allows us to communicate some of those frustrations out into the world in a way that we previously weren't able to.
I see. So you're saying that social media are allowing us to express certain social constraints that otherwise before never got attention.
Right, right. I think that they didn't get attention. I think they were swept under the rug, and I think that they're much more obvious now. I think that it's difficult for a columnist, for example, in the paper to complain about this epidemic of cheating. People will think that they're a nut, but if they look at Ashley Madison and hold it as this scapegoat for cheating, and say, look at this website profiting skeptically and
they're forgetting the fact that people use the website, which gives it the business.
Yeah.
And I think if I were to summarize my end of things, I think certain social media can enhance your life. I also think they can trap your life. If you are one of those people who utilize social media to vent, say, that social frustration, but it doesn't bring it to a conclusion, or you're using your social media as a means of escape rather than real connection.
I think addiction is never good, and I think that balance is always good. You really shouldn't be using anything too much. You shouldn't be on the phone too much. You shouldn't be on the TV too much, on the computer too much. The
harmonious approach is definitely the right
in general with everything in life. Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll call it there. I know you and I could just talk for an absolutely long period of time. I'm very excited that you joined with me today, Tali. I've really enjoyed this. I do want to actually just briefly, as we wrap up the show, discuss next week. And I'm at a conference on the Friday night, which is when I host normally at 8:30. So I thought we have other options like 11 p.m. we could cast. You and I could continue this, which would be, I think, 1 p.m. for you the next day.
Yep.
Would that be something that would work for you?
Sure. I think we can have a chat, have a think, have a plan, and see if
Yeah.
we can keep winning with Justin.
Teeuwen. Yeah, we
Yep.
win with Teeuwen. That's what I've been
Is
calling
that,
it.
is that what it? I didn't get it right. It's
Well, you said win with Justin, and that is true. That is my name. I like using we win with Teeuwen because it tells people how to say my last name.
right. Okay, that was the point of that. Okay, cool. Gotcha. I am on the horse with you. I am riding with you into the sunset. We are on the same page. Great.
Good. I did a little animation of my hand was us going off to the sunset. Very cool.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, on Monday I'm doing a cast about what did I have some show notes here. We've been winging it for a little bit. Although we researched our points, we've let's see here. Monday I'm looking for submissions from people helping other people with their parking. So it's sort of like a Good Samaritan type program. I do news and that kind of thing. And on Tuesday, I'm going to discuss the scientific laws of success, specifically tension. I have not selected Wednesday's topic yet, but you can tune in to the website. Let's see if I can pull it up here. And there it is, timeconsultinginc.com/ is it even up here yet? Let me see here. /podcast is where it's available. And if I'm going to quickly type it in here. I use this almost every day. www.timeconsultinginc.com/ blog is how you can find the information that we've just talked about right now. You'll see the YouTube casts, and you also will see, oh, that's a little too big there. Let's do that. And you'll also see what else is there? What's coming up next. So those are what's coming up. Monday, I'm going to talk about parking a little bit. That's going to be viewer submissions and stories. And on Tuesday, tension. And then Wednesday and Friday, we'll come up with those topics as we go. But it looks like next Friday's show will be at 11 p.m. Right, Tolly?
Yep, sounds riveting.
Eastern Standard. Yes, it's very, very riveting. Tolly, I'll just ask that you stay on the line. We'll talk briefly after the show, but I'm going to end it and put on a little music. So if you feel free to mute yourself there.
Okay, cool.
Or say things. You can also say things if you want.
I can say things over the music?
If you want, sure, yeah.
Well,
It'll be there.
I can't hear the music.
Oh, I know. That is disappointing. We need to figure out a way to fix that so you can.
Because I want to be able to comment on the music as I'm hearing
That's
with you.
true.
Okay,
That's
I'm
true.
gonna mute myself. I'm gonna wait until the music is over.
Very well. I will speak with you soon.
Okay, see ya.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining.